It began with a tightly guarded document moving quietly through the halls of Buckingham Palace, under security protocols so strict that even several senior aides were reportedly denied full access to its contents. The atmosphere inside the palace shifted the very moment Princess Catherine stepped out beside Prince William, following a private meeting with King Charles III. Although officials attempted to present the gathering as nothing more than routine royal procedure, insiders claimed something far more significant had already been set into motion behind closed doors. According to palace whispers, the meeting had been arranged suddenly and at an unusually late hour, a time when most royal corridors normally fall silent and only urgent constitutional matters continue behind locked doors. Sources familiar with palace operations suggested the discussion included private secretaries, constitutional advisors, and carefully prepared briefing files handled with extraordinary discretion. That level of secrecy immediately triggered speculation throughout royal circles because within the monarchy, silence often carries more meaning than public statements. Observers claim the tone of the gathering changed dramatically once Catherine arrived beside William. What initially appeared to be concerns surrounding the king's health allegedly evolved into conversations centered on the future structure of royal authority itself. Insiders began suggesting that dormant succession protocols were quietly being reviewed once again. At first, many dismissed the reports as ordinary speculation tied to growing concerns surrounding King Charles's fragile reign and the increasing pressure to secure long-term stability for the monarchy. But the unusual coordination between palace offices reportedly told a different story. Staff members allegedly noticed communication patterns between departments that rarely collaborated unless a decision had already reached the highest level of royal planning. When Catherine was later seen leaving with sealed briefing folders, rumors quickly intensified. Royal correspondents soon began hinting that discussions inside Buckingham Palace were focused on the modernization of senior royal authority. The wording was intentionally vague, yet powerful enough to send shock waves through royal commentators and longtime palace watchers. Inside the monarchy, every phrase is deliberate. Titles are never symbolic decorations alone, and protocol changes are rarely simple administrative adjustments. Each alteration carries institutional meaning. Then came the rumor that transformed quiet speculation into a full-scale royal mystery. Sources suggested the confidential discussions involved the historic title of Princess Royal, a designation strongly associated with Princess Anne and her decades of disciplined service to the crown. That connection immediately unsettled traditionalists because Anne's public reputation had become nearly untouchable after years of unwavering duty. Still, insiders claimed the palace was considering whether royal authority should continue to pass strictly through old traditions or whether usefulness, visibility, and public stability now mattered more than ancient custom. At the center of that debate stood Catherine. Not because she had actively pursued greater authority, but because the monarchy increasingly appeared to need a figure capable of reassuring the public, while Prince William prepared for the immense pressures of the future throne. Palace strategists reportedly viewed Catherine as calm, disciplined, and emotionally steady during a period when the institution itself appeared vulnerable. This placed Buckingham Palace in a difficult position. On one side stood centuries of royal tradition. On the other stood the growing belief that survival might require controlled adaptation. The true shock, however, reportedly involved the constitutional adjustments being considered behind palace walls. For generations, the Princess Royal title carried an almost sacred reputation within the House of Windsor. It was granted sparingly and often surrounded by quiet political calculations. Yet reports emerging from administrative circles suggested King Charles had privately questioned whether ancient customs still fully served the modern monarchy. Once that question surfaced, the royal hierarchy allegedly entered uncertain territory. The title itself had never been treated as ceremonial decoration. Within palace culture, it symbolized elite female duty at the highest level of royal service. Princess Anne transformed the role into something much larger than a title. Over decades, she became the embodiment of discipline, endurance, and loyalty, while other members of the royal family faced scandal, controversy, and public criticism. That is why reports of constitutional reviews caused immediate unease. According to insiders, the issue extended far beyond Catherine alone. It touched Anne's legacy, Charles's authority, William's future reign, and public confidence in an institution already navigating one of its most delicate eras. Since the king's illness became a growing concern, every royal appearance reportedly carried deeper meaning. Every absence sparked speculation, and every procedural review sounded less like paperwork and more like preparation for an uncertain future. Sources claim Charles was not attempting to erase tradition, but rather protect continuity before a larger crisis exposed weaknesses inside the institution. In palace language, continuity often means one thing above all else: preparing for pressure before the public fully recognizes it. Catherine's growing role reportedly emerged because she had evolved into far more than William's wife in the eyes of royal strategists. She was increasingly viewed as a stabilizing force capable of maintaining public trust during periods of uncertainty. William himself was rumored to support granting Catherine expanded ceremonial responsibilities, not as a reward, but as a strategic shield around the monarchy's future image. Insiders claimed he viewed her as the emotional bridge between the stability many associated with Queen Elizabeth II and the modern monarchy preparing to enter a new era. That comparison carried enormous power, yet it also created serious risks. Traditionalists reportedly feared that elevating Catherine too quickly could appear disrespectful to Princess Anne's decades of loyal service. Others worried it might trigger internal tension during a period when the monarchy needed unity above all else. Still, support for modernization reportedly continued growing inside palace circles. Advocates argued the institution could no longer rely entirely on inherited customs if it hoped to survive future crises. They believed visible stability mattered just as much as ancient protocol. Behind the constitutional language and quiet palace meetings, however, another struggle was allegedly unfolding. This conflict involved influence, loyalty, and the future balance of power inside the royal family itself. As rumors surrounding Catherine intensified, Buckingham Palace reportedly entered one of its most fragile internal periods since the death of Queen Elizabeth II. The issue was no longer merely symbolic. According to commentators, it had become a battle over who would ultimately define the monarchy after King Charles. Reports suggested subtle factions began forming across senior royal households. Not openly or dramatically, but through delayed communications, cautious briefings, and carefully controlled conversations. Some palace aides allegedly believed Catherine's expanding influence was moving too quickly during a time already burdened by illness, transition, and global scrutiny. To them, every new responsibility given to Catherine looked less like ceremonial support and more like strategic preparation for the next reign. Others disagreed entirely. They argued the crown urgently needed a public figure people already trusted, someone who could stand beside William not merely as a future consort, but as a stabilizing force capable of carrying genuine symbolic authority. Within that argument, Catherine was not replacing tradition. She was becoming part of the monarchy's survival plan before the next major crisis arrived. While public attention focused on rumors surrounding Catherine's possible elevation, another layer of tension was reportedly developing behind palace walls. According to royal commentators, Buckingham Palace entered a deeply fragile period as questions surrounding influence, loyalty, and succession quietly intensified. The issue was no longer limited to ceremonial titles. It had evolved into a larger debate about symbolism, authority, and who would ultimately shape the monarchy after King Charles. Sources suggested that not everyone welcomed Catherine's growing prominence. Reports claim subtle divisions began appearing across senior royal households. These were not dramatic confrontations or visible conflicts, but rather cautious delays, strategic briefings, and conversations carefully disguised beneath polite formalities. Palace insiders allegedly feared that Catherine's expanding responsibilities were accelerating too quickly during a period already overshadowed by illness, transition, and relentless media attention. To some members of the royal establishment, every additional role assigned to Catherine looked less like support and more like preparation for a future transfer of authority. Others viewed the situation differently. Supporters argued that the monarchy urgently required a figure capable of maintaining public confidence during uncertain times. Catherine, in their view, represented calm, reliability, and continuity. They believed her role was not replacing tradition but strengthening it before the next wave of instability could emerge. Princess Anne reportedly remained publicly silent throughout the speculation, yet insiders claimed she was fully aware of every development unfolding around her. That silence carried enormous weight. For decades, Anne had built her reputation on discipline rather than popularity. She became respected not through emotional interviews or public image campaigns, but through consistency and duty. Her refusal to publicly respond to the rumors only deepened the mystery. Some observers questioned whether Anne privately opposed the proposed changes. Others believed she was deliberately protecting the monarchy from visible division during a vulnerable moment. There were also suggestions that Anne may have quietly accepted Catherine's rise as part of a broader strategy designed to secure the institution's future. Meanwhile, insiders alleged that Queen Camilla's circle monitored developments very carefully. Although no open confrontation reportedly occurred, palace influence appeared to be shifting. Catherine's popularity with the public continued strengthening, William's authority inside the institution reportedly grew firmer, and concerns surrounding the king's health made discussions about future leadership impossible to avoid. Every royal household understood the stakes. Whoever shaped this transition would influence the future identity of the monarchy itself. Reports suggested Prince William strongly supported what insiders described as a future-focused monarchy. According to Palace Whispers, he envisioned a royal institution built around discipline, stability, and Catherine's calm public image. Public opinion appeared to reinforce his position. Media commentary, polling trends, and growing fascination with Catherine increasingly placed her at the emotional center of the modern royal family. Yet palace veterans reportedly feared that such admiration carried serious risks. Comparisons to Princess Diana began surfacing more frequently. Some advisors worried Catherine's rise could evolve into something larger than constitutional procedure, transforming into an emotional national movement driven by public attachment rather than controlled royal planning. Inside Buckingham Palace, that possibility reportedly triggered concern. The institution had already witnessed how powerful public affection could become during Diana's era. Palace strategists understood that admiration, once intensified, could create its own unpredictable form of influence. As Catherine's name became increasingly connected to one of the monarchy's most symbolic honors, traditionalists allegedly feared the situation could spiral beyond palace control. Then came reports of a decision that stunned even experienced royal officials. According to multiple insiders, King Charles allegedly approved confidential amendments to long-standing succession and title protocols through constitutional mechanisms rarely discussed outside elite royal circles. That move reportedly opened the possibility for Catherine to inherit symbolic authority many had once believed impossible, while Princess Anne still remained such a dominant royal figure. Sources claimed the revisions focused on ceremonial succession structures rather than direct constitutional power. Yet, even symbolic changes inside the monarchy often carry enormous significance. For several weeks, palace legal teams allegedly operated behind a wall of secrecy while drafting recommendations connected not only to titles but also to the future structure of royal authority itself. Insiders insisted the changes were not presented as rebellion against tradition. Instead, they were framed as protection. According to reports, the adjustments were designed to strengthen the monarchy quietly before uncertainty turned into institutional instability. The revised framework allegedly granted King Charles greater flexibility regarding future royal designations, including the possibility of expanding how symbolic authority could be transferred during generational transition. That detail alone reportedly sent shockwaves through the palace old guard. Inside royal culture, flexibility rarely appears without reason. If something historically fixed suddenly becomes negotiable, it often signals the institution sees challenges ahead. Catherine's role reportedly became more important during this period because she was increasingly viewed as one of the monarchy's few universally trusted figures. Her composed public image, careful avoidance of controversy, and visible commitment to duty made her valuable even among certain critics of modernization. According to palace insiders, William believed Catherine's presence represented long-term continuity. For him, the strategy was reportedly not about granting grandeur or personal reward. It was about constructing a stable future capable of surviving public doubt, political pressure, and future crises. He allegedly understood that the monarchy could no longer depend entirely on inherited reverence and historic memory. It needed living symbols people trusted instinctively. Catherine, according to supporters, had become one of the few royal figures capable of carrying that emotional burden. Still, historians and commentators remained sharply divided. Some argued that adapting ceremonial structures before they collapsed under modern pressure actually protected royal tradition. Others warned that altering long-established customs could weaken the very foundations the monarchy depended upon, especially if the public perceived Princess Anne's lifetime of service as being overshadowed. Buckingham Palace reportedly refused to offer direct clarification. No full denial emerged, no detailed explanation followed, only silence. And within the House of Windsor, silence often creates more fascination than any official statement ever could. Public interest exploded because people sensed that something major had shifted behind palace gates. Whatever changes were unfolding appeared wrapped in protocol but driven by urgency. The monarchy had moved quietly, and Catherine's future role inside the institution suddenly seemed transformed. Yet behind global headlines and endless speculation, insiders claimed Catherine herself reacted with remarkable restraint. According to sources close to palace operations, she reportedly understood immediately that symbolic authority inside the monarchy brings enormous pressure rather than glamour. For generations, accepting greater responsibility within the House of Windsor has often meant sacrificing privacy, emotional freedom, and ordinary vulnerability. Reports claimed Catherine approached the situation cautiously rather than triumphantly. Her first concern, insiders alleged, was not public praise or historic recognition. It was whether the shift could create fractures within the royal family during a period when unity already appeared dangerously fragile.